Right, sorry about that. We've taken the executive action to mute everybody for a few minutes. First of all, can you hear us? If somebody can wave, please, to indicate that we're excellent. Thank you very much. Welcome to the next catch-up meeting of the club. And I'm going to ask James to share excuse me, the screen in a moment, but we've got something approaching 130 of us on the call now. We have well over 200 registrations, which I think this is heading towards the largest number we've had on one of these meetings in the last year. So hopefully it'll be interesting. It'll last probably about 90 minutes, and we'll tell you in a minute what we're going to cover. So James, if you'd be kind enough to screen share. And as you'll have seen from the note, the meeting has been recorded. So if you're not comfortable with that, I'm afraid you will need to drop off the call. And next one, please. And next one. So when we last met in one of these meetings before the summer, and when I wrote to the wider membership around the same time, it was just to say that last winter we in the end had really quite good season, much better than we were worried that might happen at the beginning of the year. Secondly, that we'd had a fairly stable platform operationally and financially once we got into the season, and the holiday program was running as well as it ended up doing. We ended up expecting to make a reasonable profit for the year, and you'll hear a little bit more today about how that happened. And finally, we said that in response to the message we were getting back from many of you, both on the call and on the letters and emails you were sending in, we would try to rebuild the resorts program and the reps attendance in resorts program that we've had in previous years from the low that it had reached last season, with reps in just 16 resorts. And again, we'll hear more about that today. So the program today on the screen, it's really to recap quite quickly on the initial thoughts for this coming season, then to talk about how we're, having listened to what you and the wider membership are telling us, how we're trying to integrate that into the strategy of the club and make sure that the work of both council and our staff are focused on the things that you're telling us you want us to do. We are increasingly aware, and you're telling us this as well, of the importance of sustainability in the mountain environment. So we'll tell you a little bit about what we're doing on that. And then in the workings of the club, we're going to say a bit about our IT program in particular, because those of you who have been members for some years will recall both that good IT is critical to the management of the club, keeping in contact with our membership, running the holidays program and running the reps program and so on. But it's also something that, because it can be expensive, has cost us money and difficulties in the past. And because we're going through over the coming 2 years, further significant IT changes, we just want to tell you a little bit about how that's going to work and what the costs are and how they're going to be managed. Then one of the other success stories over the past year has been our partnership with other organizations feeding into our membership and the things that we're able to offer to our members. We'll hear a little bit about that. And then we'll pause at that point. I expect probably the bit down to item 6 will take maybe 20 or 25 minutes. Then I'd like us to be able to hear more from you about your plans and concerns, if you have them, for the coming winter. Because what we're then going to go on to do, Katie on my left and Owen on my right, is tell you more about our plans for expanding the holiday program, how it's going this year, and in particular expanding the resorts program as you've asked us to do. And there's a lot of news there, some of it I think very positive, which I'm sure you'll be interested to hear about. I know there are many reps on the call tonight, and of course some of you will be coming to the reps training programs, which are starting at the end of this week, and you'll hear that, and you'll hear more and more detail on that program, but the context for that will be in the call this evening. And although it says questions and discussion at the end, as usual, we're happy to take things as interactively as possible during the session. We'll leave you on mute, but once we start in a moment, we'll allow you to unmute yourself. And as we come to the end of each session, or each part of it, if you want to ask questions about that, just unmute yourself and chip in. If it gets too much of a free-for-all, we might have to mute you all again, but it's worked quite well in the past. So, to reiterate, on my immediate right, James, our General Manager, who is managing things well at the centre for the coming season. All on his right, who's managing the reps, resorts and membership programs. And on my left, Katie, who's managing the holidays program. And you'll hear from them all in the course of the evening. So James, next slide, please. And would you like to say a word about that? I think it flows from what we've just been saying.
Yes, absolutely. Good evening, everybody. Great to see so many of you. So just a quick overview of the season ahead and some of the opportunities and some of the challenges, shall we say. So obviously, the first thing we hope for is to be disruption free. We did, in the end, have a good season last year. Almost 90% of members went skiing, almost 85% of the British market went skiing, and despite all of the challenges, particularly at the beginning of the season with testing and quarantine and closures and everything else, it ended up being a successful season overall in terms of the people who travelled, and also for us as the club financially, everything worked out well by the end of the season. So we are looking forward to a disruption-free season this year. We are not taking that for granted, so we do have plans in place and mitigation strategies if there is disruption, but we're not expecting disruption, certainly on the scale of last year. And talking to lots of industry partners, they are not expecting that either, so we're mindful of it, but we're planning for a normal season. We've just run our consumer research, which we had nearly 1,000 responses from members, and that suggests that 97% of skiers and members plan to ski this season, and this time last year that figure was about 85%. So the intent is significantly higher, and this is our members and then UK skiers who skied at least twice previous to COVID. So certainly the intent seems to be there. We're seeing particularly strong demand for instruction and adventure. We all know that over the COVID times, those who were lucky enough to be in the mountains were discovering ski touring and getting out of resort and into the off-piste, into the backcountry. And a lot of the research that we're seeing is showing that trends to continue. So interest in off-piste skiing, interest in backcountry skiing and getting away from the piste is certainly still there. We're also seeing a very strong demand for instruction. And one of the things that came through from the research very strongly when we were asking you what you were thinking about, what the kind of key factors determining your ski plans for coming season were, a very, very high level of response was about ski fitness, ski improvement, and looking to kind of make the most of your skiing. So we've responded with that, I think, with the programs that we put in place, both in the UK and overseas. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And as I say, we are mindful of the season ahead. We're certainly mindful of the fact that there still could be disruption or challenges, although we're not expecting it. But I think the really positive news is that the club is stable, both financially and operationally. And we've got a good team here. We've got a lot of the team who were with us last season. Many of them, as you know, joined us last season and had a pretty much a baptism of fire going through last season. But they've now got that experience under their belt. So we've got a good operational team and we've got a good, stable financial platform. What are the challenges ahead? Well, prices are rising. Of course, we all are very aware of that. In some cases, those rises can be quite substantial. We're still waiting for some information to come through, but we are seeing, of course, prices are rising. I think we've done a good job to counter that as much as possible and try and fix prices wherever we can. So we are very mindful of that. We are looking really at the value for money that we provide across the club, but we are mindful of rising prices coming from suppliers. And similarly, operational costs are rising, as everyone knows. Certainly, well, if you're living at home or if you run a business or in any context, really, everybody knows that operational costs are rising. Climate change, we will go into our sustainability actions a little bit later. But of course, we saw this summer the impact of climate change on the mountains, and we were reduced to one summer ski area. And it may be the case that there isn't going to be summer skiing in the near future. And resorts are very mindful of that. And as an industry, I think we're very mindful of that. And we're seeing a more obvious impact now from climate change. And finally, limited resources. And that's really just to say that we are choosing what we do carefully. We always have to make those choices as a club, as an organisation, of what we can do, what we can't do, and make those strategic choices about where we put our effort, where we put the resources in ahead. So we don't have unlimited resources. We're very focused on making the right choices for you so that we deliver the services that you care most about.
Thank you, James. Next slide.
So One of the things that we've been working on over the summer is our strategy and putting together a 3-year strategy. Now, this is one slide and one admittedly reasonably long sentence, but this encompasses a large amount of work that has gone on in planning for the next 3 years. And what are we looking to do? What is our key objective as a club, as an organisation? What is it that we're looking to do? And so we've really focused on 2 key things, which is our membership. And as it says there, to reduce churn and grow membership. So we're not just looking to grow membership through new members, we're also looking to deliver value so that members will stay with us. So we're looking to reduce that change in membership. We're looking to lower the average age of membership. And now we're not looking to lower our average age dramatically over the next 3 years. It's about delivering for the members that we have now and looking to the next demographic to change our overall demographic age gradually over the next 3 years. And how will we do that? We'll do that particularly through enhanced member benefits, and we'll talk about some of those tonight. So they are the holidays program, the on-stream program, the UK programs, the discounts and everything that we offer, but also improved communication about those, because we're very aware that sometimes we're doing lots of great things here, and maybe you don't know everything that we're doing. We need to get better at telling you of all the great things that we're doing and all of the advantages and benefits to you as club members. So it's a 2-part strategy of increasing those benefits, but also communicating them better. And then underpinning everything from that is maintaining that financial and operational stability. So living within our means, expanding, but having that financial and operational stability. And this is an evolving objective. We are also adding sustainability into this, but really sustainability kind of runs through everything we do. So we will add some more goals around sustainability in that, but that is our overall objective. And it may seem fairly simple, but I think that's the key for us to be a vibrant and successful club, is to deliver value for you and to future members, to make sure that the benefits of the club are clear.
James, could I just add to that, and it echoes what James has just been saying, the sustainability thing also applies to the reason for doing that. We're not as a club, our objective is not just to grow numbers. Our objective is to make sure that those who are members and who would like to become members enjoy their membership. And exactly the way James has just said, the importance of sustainability, though, applies equally to making sure that the club has a future. And because the demographic, as all of you know, over the past 20 years has been getting older, if we don't do the groundwork to ensure that we've got a fleet of new members coming in, and ideally younger members, then gradually the club will diminish, as it's done, as you've seen from previous metrics over the last 20 or 30 years. So it's a balance, all of this, isn't it, between finding new ways to meet members, for example, in resort and encourage them, non-members in resort and encourage them to join, finding new ways to approach the skiing community in the UK while they're in this country who may not know about the club at all, and tell them what we do. But also, at the heart of it, remembering that what we're actually here for is a body of however many thousand people we are who enjoy skiing together and hearing about each other's skiing exploits. So a lot of the stuff you'll hear later on in the meeting today, that in particular that we're doing on holidays and in resorts, is about how we get that feel of the club reinforced between members, because that's what I think we've all been hearing you telling us is particularly important to you. And where members sometimes come and say they're thinking of leaving, it's often because they feel they've lost that club feel of what we're doing. So it isn't just a numbers game. It's about the look and feel of the experience of all of us belonging to a club that we want to be members of. James. Just let's stop briefly at that point. Does anybody have any anything they'd like to add or suggest, or indeed disagree with, about what you've just heard about membership and growing it and assuring the quality of the member experience? Are they able to unmute themselves?
No.
Right, you should be able to unmute yourself if anybody would like to chip in. Right, you done? Okay, you've got control over your own mute.
Hi, I just had a point to just like to ask about the objective there. One of the things you mentioned was around one of the core objectives being able to enjoy skiing together. I think an emphasis should also be on sharing information about skiing together, because sometimes it's not just the physical skiing, it's having access to information. If I think about how my younger friends ski versus how my older friends ski, it's not always together, but they are together, but they're sharing information much more about what their experience of skiing is and where to go, where the best bars are, where the best restaurants are, when to go where. It's that type of information, not just meeting up and going to ski.
Jim, we've talked quite a lot within the club about that. Owen, you may want to return to it later when you're talking about what's happening on snow, but would you like just to add anything at this stage?
No, well, only to say I think that's certainly where we think something like our rep service and our new app, and really it's about, for us, community as well, and creating those communities that live on past the day skiing, you know, so that they're there forever. So yeah, and hopefully that's you'll see it some of our plans later that we are trying to support that as well.
Jim, were you thinking both when you're on holiday skiing and also before you go when you're in the UK?
To be honest, I'm a little different of late. I live in Switzerland now, but I still like being a member because, you know, it's, I guess, a bit of loyalty as well, but I like to use the app both. I like to use the club not just to try and meet people in the bar on the Wednesday or Thursday evening to try and find somebody, but to find information out, because I whenever I go somewhere to ski, and I ski a lot, obviously, in Switzerland, in a lot of the smaller resorts, and we don't have any information about those smaller resorts often in the ski club, because they're not that popular, they're not that commonly visited. So I have to go to other sources to get insider information for that. And what I learn, I sometimes think is invaluable, because where do I trust it? Because I don't always trust what's written. You know, I don't trust going for a restaurant in TripAdvisor, because it's just now become places where people bitch and moan if they get a bad steak. And I think the behavior is, where do I go to trust the information? And I really would like Ski Club to be a place where I could go and get not insider, but trustful information from somebody that does ski, that would put it from the perspective of a skier or a snowboarder.
Right, no, that's very helpful. Let's come back to that a little bit more when we come to the on snow discussion later in the meeting today. But thank you. Anybody else want to chip in at this stage?
Could I make a comment as a new member?
There's Sebastian.
Yeah, I joined the club 18 months ago in order to go ski touring, and I would like to congratulate you on terrific service. I particularly found that the use of the app, WhatsApp, and introducing the group before the trip and afterwards, some of those people are still in touch, and I think it's really good aspect of the activity. And I probably am in the older category now, but I don't think you should exclude adding older members as well as younger members. So well done.
Oh, thank you. That's good. That's good to hear. And again, we may want to come back to that a little later in terms of how we make sure the connectivity between people on holiday and in resort works even better. Right. Thank you. Let's see if we may move on to the next slide, James. Right, James again.
So, sustainability. It's been very interesting to track this over the last few years now. Of course, there have been events and issues that have somewhat overtaken sustainability in terms of our global attention over the last 2 years or so. But since those issues and since COVID has not disappeared, but has certainly kind of gone down in terms of people's attention, we have seen that conversations within the ski community about sustainability have accelerated quite rapidly. And certainly, if you speak to any resorts at the moment, it is absolutely top of their list of concerns and activities. Now, we were slightly ahead of the curve in this. I'm sure as many of you remember, the club has done some great work on sustainability, going back to clearing rubbish from Scottish mountains. We had green rep jackets at one point, and we were really ahead of where everybody else was in terms of sustainability, and we've got that base. But we haven't done so much activity on it in the past few years, and we want to return to it, to being at the forefront of everything that we do. Now, one thing that has changed since we kind of led the industry in terms of sustainability is there has been some great organisations that have popped up and are doing some amazing work. So people like Protect Our Winters, Ski, One Tree at a Time, Snow Carbon, and many others. And I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with some of these organisations. And so we're working with them very closely. A lot of them have deep expertise in different areas, whether that be travelling by train, whether that be the overall situation and how the ski industry can adapt its operations to be more sustainable, whether that be things like the recycling and reusing of clothing, whether that be a lot of stuff that's happening in resorts, which you may have seen in places like Courchevel and Morseen and others, where the local operators and community are coming together to do lots of amazing things with sustainability. So we're working very closely with those partners to see what we can learn from them. And of course, we're examining our own operations to see where we can be more sustainable. So what can we do? How can we be more sustainable? What can we do in our offices here? And there is a working group in this office. And how do we look at our operations? Now, I will say this doesn't mean that everything we do can only sort of pass the sustainability test. You know, we do still have a holiday to North America. We do still have reps in North America, and we're not here to preach to members that they should, you know, only go by train and not fly, etc. That's not our role, and we think it's very important that sustainability means sustaining the activities we love as much as it does about being able to protect the planet, particularly the mountain environment. So we're really more about looking at how you can make sustainable choices and looking to provide members with that useful and accurate information, because it is a complex topic, and sometimes the information that's out there is not sound, and often it's more complex than it seems. So we're working particularly with those organisations that I mentioned before, and looking back at the work we've done before, and working closely with resorts to be able to tell you about what you can do and what your opportunities and options are. And I hope you'll see that rolling out across the website, across our communications over the next season.
Thank you, James. Did I see somebody's hand going up? I think that's a no. In that case, if we could go on to the next slide, please. Right, IT. Now, just before I ask James to tell you where we've got to with that, it's worth reminding ourselves of some of the financial parameters. You know, those of you who've been with us for a number of years will recall that the club lost a lot of money in 2019 and 20, and the asset value of the club fell very considerably. And there were a mixture of reasons for that, you'll remember, but one of them was what in the end proved to be wasted investment in a number of areas, one of which was in IT to do with website and website marketing development. We're now looking, of necessity, at replacing some of the old infrastructure that the club has been running both its internal business and its holiday business on over quite a few years. It's essentially life expired, it's become much too complex, and it's been really quite difficult to sustain the pace of bookings and membership engagement that we need. So one of our council members, who I think, I'm not sure if he's on the call tonight, I think not, but Stu Bevan, many of you will know, or you may know his wife as well, who's one of our reps. Stu works professionally in IT and has been guiding council and our staff through a major change program, the first year of which is working out how we do it and how we safeguard the risks, particularly the financial as well as the operational risks. We're coming to the end of that thinking process at the moment, and council is making a decision as we speak, probably by the end of October, about the pace at which we make these changes and how much it'll cost us. But to put that in context, first of all, financially, the club's balance sheet is now stable. We ended up in the year to April 22, making a profit of something well in excess of £400,000. Part of that was fortuitous on the strength of the investment market. Part of it was to do with the stewardship and the tight operation that James was running with the team, making sure that we didn't make mistakes of the past and that we ran things sensibly. But that's allowed us to be in a position where we can now look at an IT investment program over a 1 to 2 year period, and we're still deciding on the timing of something above £200,000. So the reason we're telling you about tonight is we will be investing a significant amount of your money once again to bring in modern IT systems for both the Holidays program and for membership engagement. And James will tell you a little bit more about where we've got to.
Yeah, I think that it encompasses a lot of it. As Trevor said, effectively we have kind of two parts of our IT system. We have the website that you're all familiar with, and then we have our back office system, which was a custom built system that is nearing 20 years old now. Now, sometimes when you're interacting with the website, you will unknowingly be interacting with our back office system, and we know, because we see it, because we get feedback from you, that it's often unwieldy, it's often difficult to do things. And it's not a great user experience. So that's why we need to change things to be able to make that whole user experience better and enable you to do things like make online bookings, change your membership and things like that, be able to improve that user experience and make it cleaner and better. But we also are looking to add more flexibility. So, for example, how you can log onto the site, how your payment options, different ways to interact. But it also comes back to all of the things that we touched on earlier about connecting members both before skiing and before holidays and whilst they're skiing together and afterwards. An awful lot of that is underpinned by good technology. And so we are really looking at systems that will allow us to do so much more. So not only smooth as the operations that we've got now, but allow us to do so much more. And there are so many questions and comments that we get, and we feel your frustration, and we just cannot do anything about it at the moment with our current IT infrastructure. And so many things that we want to do over the next few years, and to really increase that member engagement is underpinned by technology. As Trevor said, we are mindful of the significant cost of this and getting it right, and a lot of work has gone into looking at those systems, choosing the right systems, stress testing them against scenarios, and now particularly the website wireframing process, which is nearly done. So we are putting a lot of work and effort into ensuring that we get this right. And we're very mindful, of course, that it's a substantial piece of work also from an operational perspective, and in terms of the team here, and making sure that we have the input into it to make sure that it does what we need it to do and what you need it to do. So don't expect to see any sudden changes, but a lot of work is happening behind the scenes. And again, over that time frame of the next few years, you will certainly see very significant changes in our website and in the way that you can interact with the club and enhance the whole member experience.
If anybody who's on the call tonight, or indeed any other members who hear about it, would like to know more about progress and how we're planning on doing it, do please feel free to contact James or somebody on staff, and we'll find a way to let you know what's going on. As James said, this is a long-term project. So if you come on these calls in the future, we'll report back on how it's going and the different parts of it. The most interesting bit is the bit about membership engagement, and picking up what Bob was saying a little earlier about information availability and exchange between members of the club and directly between members. Bluntly, the more we spend, if we use the right product, and if we have enough internal resource to do it for you from here, then the easier that becomes, and the easier we can make it for members to contact each other and to get good information from the club. But if we get that wrong, it could be an expensive mistake. So we're taking it slowly, and we're being careful on your behalf. And I hope you feel that's the right approach. Again, let me pause. If anybody has anything they'd like to ask or add at this stage, please do chip in. I'm just reading Liz's note on the chat, which I'm sure many of you can see. But what is great about the club is that if I'm having difficulty online, when I call you, there's always someone there to help who answers the phone. Well, that is, I have to tell you, Liz, that's enormously reassuring to hear, because our staff can sometimes find it very frustrating not knowing whether they're able always to be there when you need them. So finding that more often than not they are is great feedback. Thank you.
And also to reassure you, that's not going to change. The idea of changing our IT is not so that we can just send you to a chatbot or something else. You will always have the ability and the opportunity to talk to somebody at the club. There is no plans at all to replace our team with technology. It will just it will make it much easier for them to do their job, but make it easier to help you. But no, that's great to hear. Thank you.
Right, unless there's anybody else who wants to chip in.
Can I ask just quickly?
Yeah,
is developing the app part of that sort of IT project?
It is, yes. I think the app we are always looking to develop. We are at the moment on a kind of app infrastructure, as in we didn't design the app, so we are somewhat constrained again within the app design as to what we can do. And actually, a lot of the work that we will do on IT, particularly with the infrastructure changes and the systems we're looking at, will allow us to do lots of things from an app or from a mobile basis. That will again transform that experience. So yeah, we're very aware of that. So you will see enhancements to the app, but again, we're slightly curtailed by its parameters at the moment.
Chris, there's always a debate internally and among members about the balance between simplicity and developing bespoke things like the app. So, for example, I've just come back from a month's climbing in the Alps, and we were nearly 50 people there, and they were all using WhatsApp. Not a dedicated app, but it was enormously valuable for the sort of stuff that Bob was asking about earlier, so letting people know where to go, what to do, what to climb, where to eat, and all of that. So at the simplest level, a lot of the technology not only exists, but is widely used by all of you in other walks of life. So one of the things we've got to work out is how much to use what's already there, or alternatively, how much to design things that give even more added value with information about the club. And any of you with an interest in that and thoughts about how we should do that, also please feel free to contact us and talk to us about it, because there are a number of different ways we can do it. All that matters is that we find ways of exchanging good information in real time in the way that the stuff we do in the mountains needs.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
I think it was very telling what Sebastian said when there's a new member straight in, still chatting away on WhatsApp. You know, I think that's people's nature, you know, and that's exactly what Sebastian was looking for. And I remember when we were in COVID time and our app was not available anymore, we all survived and we're using groups quite happily. And not saying we don't have our app, but I wouldn't invest a gazillion quid for something where people are quite used to using other facilities.
I came down from the Sass Valley about 3 weeks ago, and I got lumbered with writing the report for the 50-odd people who were there. Right. I spent this morning doing that. The WhatsApp group, when I went back to people just as recently as this weekend and said, "Tell me more," was invaluable. They were all still on it, and they were all still sending me photographs, dropping them into Google Drive, and giving me up-to-date information. So you're right. We just need to facilitate it.
Yeah,
and I think that there's a few points in the chat about sharing information. Which again is key, and the point earlier about, you know, the club used to be a source of information that wasn't available elsewhere. Now information is available everywhere, but the difficulty is the quality of that information and the trust in that information. And you know, we think we're still absolutely industry leading in terms of the quality of information that we put out there. But of course, the information that comes from member to member and peer to peer is as valuable, if not more valuable. So yes, a lot of the IT work we're doing is enabling members to share those ideas, which I think is hugely important.
When we come on later in half an hour or so to the new resort information, maybe ask us more about that and just trigger some thoughts in our minds about how we use that. Because as the number of resorts begins to expand again quite rapidly, getting latest and best information is going to be really important for members. Right, could we move on to James?
Salimos.
James again.
It's me again. So partnerships. So we, as Trevor mentioned at the beginning, we put a lot of work. Oh, sorry.
So we're just muting you all to stop a bit of background noise.
Yes, partnerships is an area that we've been focused on over the last few months or so, for a number of reasons, really, not least because when we ask you what's important about the services that we offer, discounts and members, partner services in general always come up very, very high. So it's an important part of the service for you, and we have seen other comments as well on social media and other areas saying that members felt that the benefits, the partnership benefits, have dropped maybe over recent years. Now, part of that is deliberate. So we used to have an awful lot of partnerships, and we took a decision a few years ago to have less partnerships, but focus on making those partnerships more valuable. So working with what we call our preferred partners to really deliver better value from those. But part of it was that, particularly with COVID and other changes, some of those partnerships just fell away. And actually, when we looked at it, we saw areas where we needed to enhance those partnerships. So what we're doing now is twofold. We are looking to increase the number of partnerships, but also increase the value of those partnerships. So there are a few just highlights to make you aware of. Hopefully, everybody has received their first copy of Ski and Board for the season, which hit over the last few weeks. Now, Ski and Board has gone in the last few years to being a publication that was really only available directly to members through the post. So we are now working with more of our partners to get copies of Ski and Board into more places. So, for example, in Snow and Rock stores nationwide this year, on some of the talk tours that we're partnering with people like Warren Smith and Henry's Avalanche Talk and others, into more independent ski stores, into 4 of the major snow domes into the UK, onto the Eurostar trains, and working with tour operators and hotels overseas to get more and more copies of Ski and Board out into resort as well. So there's two advantages for that. One, if you go somewhere and haven't got your copy of Ski and Board, you will find it easier to pick one up. And secondly, of course, it's a great way of introducing the club to non-members or potential members, because Ski and Board is a great way to showcase what we do. So we are pushing out more distribution for Ski and Board this winter, and we'll continue to grow that. We're also looking at more member events now. For obvious reasons, events have taken a reduction in recent years, but we started particularly with the Ski with Chemmy days in indoor snow domes, and they've been incredibly popular. They always sell out. We always get amazing feedback from those members and very much enjoy skiing with Chemmy. And as I said earlier, one of the things that's come out of our research is the fact that instruction and technique and improving skills is a really high factor for everybody ahead of this season. So we have also now partnered with Warren Smith, a very well-known British instructor who is based in Verbier, who is coming over and running. We haven't called them Ski with Warren days, but that's effectively what they are. So we ran the first one of those just last week at Hemel, and again, we had great feedback from that, and members really enjoyed skiing with Warren, and he's building lots of other areas around his instruction in the UK, including his Technique Lab talk, which will be going to the National Snow Show in Birmingham, where we will be, and to lots of stores around the country, independent stores and Snow and Rock. And then he's writing a new column in Ski and Board, which also links in that with all of your preparation for the season. So a lot of Warren's philosophy is teaching you what you can do before you get on skis in order to improve things like your flexibility and your fitness. So it seems to be finding a real kind of home with everything that members have been asking for, and it's just more opportunity for members to ski together in the UK as well as overseas. So we're looking forward to growing that product. We've also partnered again with Henry's Avalanche Talk, who we have partnered with in the past. So they have a tour going around the UK in Ellis Brigham stores. And so we will be working more closely with them. We'll be a partner of that tour. And again, we'll be making a discount available for members to attend that. And then we're really working with more and more partners to provide better value. So partners such as Ski World, the tour operator, who are now offering members 10% off a holiday, and the average price of a ski holiday is now tipped well over the £1,000 mark. So a 10% saving is really very substantial, and particularly if it's for a family. And working with other partners coming up, so snow domes in the UK, for example, with more tour operators, and with our preferred partners like Snow and Rock, where we're looking to extend the member discount from 15% to 20% more times through the year. We've got an event happening with them again at Hemel at the end of the month, where you'll be able to test skis from Volpool. So there's a lot of activity going on with partnerships. And as I say, it's about enhancing value for members and making sure that we've got the right partnerships for you, making sure that the discounts that you get are substantial and they're not discounts that you can get elsewhere. And also increasing the opportunities for members to get out and meet each other, but also go along to talks and events all over the country. So please let us know what else you want to see. Some of them we know of. We know you would love free ski carriage back on Swiss and BA, and we know that you would love discounts on lift passes all over the world. And we're working on some of those. I won't promise them this season, but we are mindful of them, and there is some work happening. But yeah, please do let us know how well you find the partnerships and the discounts work, if they're working for you, if there's anything else that you'd like to see, and we will continue to work to deliver those for you.
Any comments or questions from anybody about that? You may need to give them the right to come on mute. You have control, folks. Anyone want to raise anything or ask James any questions? Yeah, I think there have been one or two things you'll have seen in the chat about the value of particular partnerships or discount arrangements. Ski Seth appears to have come up a couple of times.
Hi, yeah, I guess that I'm not on mute now. It's Kimberly Kay, and I'm in Sheffield. And unfortunately, we don't have a slope in South Yorkshire anymore. And I've got some ideas for some possible sites. I just wondered whether there might be any support in maybe coming up with some pitch documents for local councils to try and pitch for new facilities. Not anything too kind of grandiose, but something that can help people get into the sport and to try it and to experience it.
Happy to, Kimberly. There's certainly information we can help you in terms of kind of the UK market and the number of skiers and the value of that. There's lots of organisations we can put you in touch with as well. People like Snow Sports England, you might be able to help. So yeah, please definitely reach out to me, and we'd be happy to help where we can. I skied at Sheffield Ski Village many times, and it was very sad to see it go. So absolutely, if we can help, we will. Brilliant. I'll maybe try and catch you at the snow show then. Great.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Johnny McIntyre. I think you may be on mute, Johnny.
It's not his mute.
He hasn't, has he? Or possibly your mic. You're not on mute, but we can't hear you. Have you got a working mic? Can anybody else hear Johnny? No. Johnny, I'm afraid I think the problem may be at your end. Any members with good lip reading skills?
Did he ask his question via the chat? If we guide him.
That is a very good idea. Johnny, if you could possibly type it, if it's a question, type it into the chat. We can then pick it up.
Down the bottom in the center.
Depending on your screen. Meanwhile, Joe Milner-Percy is telling us that there's £20 off and free ski carriage on Swiss. That is a huge incentive. I know many of us use it.
It's on the list, Joe.
Right, Johnny's there. Can you look into discounts with ferry companies?
Yeah. So that is one that we are looking at, and particularly again, there's certainly been an increase this year in the number of people intending to drive rather than fly, and so obviously discounts with ferry companies and with the Eurotunnel is on our list. We've had them in the past, and we're working on them again, so we will keep you posted. But yes, absolutely.
And the answer to Eamon's question about the meet at the Duke's Head, yes, we are planning on reorganising it. We talked about it cancelled last week, and we'll let you know as soon as we've got a date. Right, thank you. Let's move on, if we may, to the next slide, James. Holidays. Now, just pausing for a second at that point. What we're going to do now is Katie is going to tell us about the holidays programme and where we're at for this year. And then Owen is going to tell us about where we are with resorts, including new ones, and the reps programme and all of that. But this is essentially certainly in my view, the heart of the club. You know, we're all members because we want to go skiing or boarding or whatever. Many of us do it independently. Many of us travel and meet each other and or reps and resorts. And many of us go with fresh tracks or mountain tracks. through our own holiday programme. And as you've heard me say before, one of our objectives at Council is to try and keep a balance of our services between those two different bits of how you enjoy your time in the mountains. So we would like to hear more, as much as possible this evening on the call from you, about what you think that your winter is going to look like and where you're planning on going. But maybe the best way to do that, now to think about it, is after you've heard a bit from Katie and a bit from Owen, and then you can connect that into where you're here. We're planning to have reps this year and so on. So Katie, would you like to start us off?
Yes, of course. Good evening, everybody. I'm afraid I don't have any particularly exciting slides for you, but I just thought I'd give you a bit of a run through of what we've been up to the last few months, getting ready for the winter. Hopefully in July you would have all received your new Fresh Tracks brochure. And in line with our strategy and objectives that James outlined earlier, we are looking to grow the holidays back. Slowly and steadily. So we you know, the numbers dropped off a lot, and the number of holidays with COVID. So we are looking this year to increase from the previous year by about 30%. And then we'll kind of look to do smaller increases moving forward, and in line with kind of all of those important things in the strategy, putting back some families' holidays, trying to target, when I say younger people, kind of the you know, maybe people in their 40s and 50s and things, but without forgetting our core members and our core customers. You know, it's trying to make sure we've got some new and interesting resorts for everyone to explore, and kind of going back to some old favourite places, and just kind of bringing the programme back to what it was really. So you know, maximum numbers of members can get out and enjoy the mountains together. So we have put in a few new things this year, which you may or may not have noticed, but we've got some old resorts come back, and the only brand new resort is Livigno, which I think I might have mentioned in our, this is all flooding back to me now, our last members meeting. But one of our key mountain guides, Andrea Enzio, who runs our holidays in Andermatt and Ponte de Legno and Alagna, he's introducing a new resort that he's been exploring for us in Livigno. So we've got some off-piste, an off-piste trip there, and he's also running one to La Tuile as well, which we have worked in La Tuile before, but not for a few years. And then likewise, we've got quite a few other old favourites coming back. We're back in Gressenay, Cortina, we've got a couple of weeks in. Bruce is taking a trip up to the Lingen Alps. Andy Perkins is back on the programme, one of our key mountain guides, doing a Verbier to Zermatt safari. So all the best skiing that you might find on the Hope route, basically. So there's quite a lot in there. Schladming as well is a new place or a returning place for us. So hopefully, along with all the old favourites, you'll find some really good stuff in there. And then just, I'm sure you don't really, well, maybe you do want to know all about sales, but we're about 46% sold already for the winter ahead, and that's effectively in line with the rest of the industry. James and we did some research recently, and it looks as though that's on par with what everyone else is looking at. So obviously, I'd rather we were more sold, but you know, we can't be too fussy in these times. So all very positive moving forward, and particularly our December holidays have been really popular. And when we've compared research of ski club members versus non-ski club members, it's the us keen people that want to get out there in December and get that extra week's holiday in, or for some people 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So it's a really popular weeks in December. And then, yeah, lots of our old favourites, lots of our peak experience holidays have sold out already, which moves us swiftly on to the next slide, because we had a couple of questions come in, and one of them, I can't believe, John and Terry, you don't know about our peak experience holidays, but we've had a chap who said he's just turned 80 and he wants to keep skiing. Well, if you don't know, or if any of you don't know, then you know, we're a bit of a specialist on this subject, and all of our peak experience holidays, it's aimed at, we say, the over 60s, but actually we've got loads of members skiing with us well into their 80s, even the odd one into their 90s over the years. So, you know, turning 80 is not a time to give up skiing. You know, as John says, maybe a bit more gently, but we've got loads of holidays for you. About 30 to 35% of our programme is all for our peak experience members. And that is, that could be, you know, skiing blue runs in Val Thorens, it could be skiing off-piste in Wengen, it could be doing all sorts of different things. So please give us a call, and yeah, we'll get you out on the mountain. So then next up, we've got a query from John. This was anyone who went on a Fresh Tracks holiday last year who's a regular. I think everybody asked for this, which was a contact list, or a list of who's going on the holiday with you. It might seem like a small thing, but it's a big thing for our members, and we will be reintroducing the list back for all holidays next year. So that's a big tick. And then, if I may just interject, one of the comments that came up in the chat earlier was about sustainability and wanting to use the train more. We would love to use the train more. The fact that the ski train demised and has come back in a different format has not been helpful. And it's really difficult to book group seats in advance. But it's not something we're giving up on. You know, we've got partners in the area, and you know, we've got thoughts of how we can make these things work. But unfortunately, it's not as simple as booking a group of people onto a train as it is booking people onto a flight. Getting group flight seats it's really easy. Getting group rail seats, it's really difficult. So it's the odds are set against us a little, but hopefully with pressure, and I think as an industry, sustainability, and you know, the whole industry is starting to put pressure onto external sources and resources and suppliers so that we can provide more sustainable choices for our members, in our case, customers and others. So time, you know, there's no quick resolution, but it's there and it's being worked on. Yeah, that's it from me, unless there's anything I've forgotten or any questions, or should we wait until Owen's done his?
Well, why don't we pause and see if there are any very wholly specific comments or questions, which you can take, Katie, and then we can always come back to holidays as part of the wider discussion after Warren's taken us through the wider number of resorts that we're looking at. So anyone want to raise any specifically in response to Katie's comments?
Could I just
Dennis and then David. Dennis first.
Hello, yeah, just regarding the train journeys, I know the discount for not using the flight is I think, or certainly used to be £100. I'm just wondering, is there any increase in that now in light of sort of recent price increases in general?
Well, we've tried to tailor it a little bit more to the flight cost, and so I think it ranges between 100 and 150 at the moment. But generally, it depends on how much the flight cost. Is the simple answer, I guess. But you're right. I think what we try and do as well is keep a lot of holidays without flights, which is a lot less popular for some people. But it does give flexibility so that people can choose whether they want to fly or whether they want to get the train. But that's a fair point, and I will take a note.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. David Baker.
Hello. I was thinking while somebody was talking about getting to know who's on a particular trip beforehand, and wondered what the position is with the club app, because as I'd understood it, the idea was that all members who were booked on a particular trip were going to be included on the app, and that therefore gives visibility of who's on it. People can exchange ideas and things of that sort. So I was just wondering if somebody could provide a quick update on what the position is with holidays and the Ski Club app.
Yes, well, Owen might be slightly better placed, but I believe Rob has actually set up for us a group on the app for every single Fresh Tracks holiday. But no small feat, given that there's 120 or something holidays. So yes, what we would like to do is really get the reps to so each rep that's repping the holiday to be able to then maybe instigate some communication with the other people. I mean, obviously it's up to members whether they want to download the app and whether they want to sign up to the group, but we will be encouraging everyone to do so.
I'm extremely happy to hear that. Having looked at a couple of trips I'm involved in, at the moment there are very few people showing up on the app, and I'm just wondering what might be done to increase that take up, if that's going to become a viable channel for people to communicate with, obviously while the holiday's on, but more important particularly is beforehand.
Yeah, I agree. I think it will form part of our kind of operational process as we move into that operational time of year. So at the very latest, I would say 2 weeks before departure, but I would like it to go out earlier so that then the 2-week email is more of a reminder. So yeah, leave that with us. We haven't been at a stage where we're resourced sufficiently to do this, but we will be getting in touch with everyone well before the holiday. As much as anything, it could be parking, meeting up at the airport, I don't know, all these kind of sorts of things, sharing journeys. So no, that's a good point.
Thanks.
Thank you, David. And Jim also. Jim?
Sorry, just straight on from David's point there, really, which is it worth us keep pushing, trying to get people to be in an app club when they're doing other things? Because it costs money to process the app, costs money to get people put into the, you said it did by no mean feat to get all the groups set up. I just wondered why. It's a bit like us saying, oh, let's go make beer, when there's lots of beer in the market that we're competing against that have got bottomless funds.
James?
Yeah, I think, I mean,
Negative, I'm sorry, but it's just a realistic thing.
I think it's a very valid question, and I think one of the debates has always been kind of, do we use sort of an open source app or messaging platform, or do we use something that is that is more controlled? And one of the advantages of the app, and one of the reasons that we introduced it, was because it allows people to use it without having to share their phone number and things like that, for example, which WhatsApp doesn't. But at the same time, I completely agree and take your point that some people will prefer to use something that they know already. And obviously there are tech companies that have spent billions developing incredibly good technology. So there's an advantage sometimes to working on that. And I hope the answer will be that part of our technology strategy is to try and knit two of those things together. I can't talk about it too much in detail at the moment, but one of the things that will underpin our new technology is using a very powerful system that is widely used, and that opens up lots of opportunities for us to hopefully kind of bridge that gap between having something that is familiar and doesn't require people to log in and create something completely new, but also has a little bit more ring fencing around it maybe than something completely public. So we're trying to sort of square that circle and create that solution, and I hope we'll be able to tell you more about it soon. And
we will be guided by you over the coming season or two. We'll monitor how this works. But taking my earlier point about simplicity is sometimes best. If it ultimately looks as though we're using bog standard systems and getting universal use of them, and members don't mind doing that, then maybe that's where we'll end up. But we'll see. Taking David's point, we will try and make sure that we've got everybody on holidays in touch with each other before they go this year, whether it's through the app or whether it's on the paper record or you're using WhatsApp or whatever. And if you find that's not happening, do please come back to us and just let us know that there's a gap that we need to fill. Right, there's a lot of stuff coming through in the chat, so I'm going to ask Owen to pick up on the wider resorts thing now. But Katie, I'm sure will look through the chat as we're doing that, and she may well want to come back in with answers to a few of your specific points a little bit later. But James, if we can move on, please, to the next slide. I think let's jump it, and we'll come back to that afterwards. On snow, Owen.
Brilliant. Well, hello, and thank you, everybody. So I think one of the things that has been sort of made very clear to us is, and it's interesting listening to everybody tonight, is that access to information and community we create. So you can jump on it. So I just want to talk a little bit about our reps in resort, who are obviously at the heart of a lot of those communities out there, and hopefully we can make a difference to a member's experience in resort and all of those things. So
now, I hope all will forgive me if I just put an envelope around this and say that we're leaping directly on talking about what the reps are going to be doing in the coming season of resort. But this is in the context of the slides you'll see in a few minutes' time that talk about the wider range of resorts, all the resorts that James and Owen and others are talking to, and where we hope to be engaging reps increasingly over the coming 2 or 3 years. So this is a look into the engine room of what the relationship with the resorts and with our members will be, but you'll get some of the context for that. I think I'm right in saying in the slides after it.
Yeah, so I think I'll jump on to the first one. So the first one was just to try and it's not an easy job to do, but to sort of get it onto one page in a few short sentences is, what is the role of the rep? And I think one of those key ones or the two key ones there in the middle is, it's about that sharing of knowledge that we've all talked about and a lot of you have referenced. And that goes 2 ways. The rep is there to share their knowledge with you, which will be pretty extensive of the resort you're in and other resorts and those things. But they're equally as interested in what knowledge you have of the resort and how we share that as a club and how we continue moving that forward. And we'll obviously, I think Trevor mentioned, be talking to all the reps to flesh this out into all the things, and part of that is using things like the app and WhatsApp and all the things that are available to us to help us all keep in touch, and that's with us as well. So feeding back to us on snow reports so you guys can have that up-to-date information is incredibly important, and I know every year lots of you sign up to receive that information, so being able to get that back and it be full and complete, is all part of that information sharing and that role of the rep. But ultimately, the rep is there to help you have a great day on the snow. So taking that into account, one of the pieces of feedback we've had from you over the years is where we're able to do that, where are we present? And I did a little bit of research, and the furthest I could go back using the internet was to 1995 to see how many resorts we'd been in or were present in back then. And that was the list that the 1995 version of skiclub.co.uk presented me with, which is obviously quite substantially bigger than the one that we have now. Which looks more like this. Obviously, you see lots of greyed out resorts there, and that's not just rep resorts, that's also including our instructor-led guiding resorts. So we took that initial list, and we also, a lot of you hopefully will remember, we asked a few months ago now where you'd like to see reps in resorts, which resorts are you skiing in? So we took both of those, combined them, having gone through all that feedback and our intentions to expand the service into a much bigger list, which is who we've been starting to reach out to. So it's been quite a long process. It's a lot of resorts to talk to. Now, we treat that list there as a relatively fluid list. It's a starting point. Obviously, so please don't panic if you look at this. I think my favourite resort isn't on there. Why aren't you talking to them? But I'm sure we will end up to. We're open to talking to any resorts, but there's only so many we can get through before we run out of time in the day. But taking that on board, we've reached out to all of those resorts so far. Now, this is a 3-year plan to get to that sort of plus 40 resorts. And really that's going to take kind of this year introducing a number of resorts, and then building on top of that next year and building on top of that next year. So if it look, please don't think what I'm about to tell you is we're in all 50 of these resorts, but we have started conversations with them, and that's the most important thing, is that all of them are on our radar, are now aware of the rep service, are feeding back to us what they'd like to see, how they'd like it to work. And that's really positive, and a lot of them have come back with really positive feedback in ways they can support us. So I think the next slide hopefully will be the most encouraging one. And that is, we're absolutely delighted to say that we will be adding 8 new resorts to the programme for this coming winter. So the resorts are up there, as you can see. I won't list them, they'll be on there. All of them will start January 7th. We'll be running them for 12 weeks. So very, very normal rep programme in each one of them. Some of them we've been in before, so some of you will see resorts like Soldeo up there. We've certainly had a rep until relatively recently, reps programme there, so we're delighted to be back there, and we know there's a great community of people out there that use that service, and a great group of reps that were providing it. So we'll be reaching out to a lot of those in the coming weeks to see if we can bring a lot of those people back as well as some brand new resorts for us, certainly not for our members, because we know you ski in these places, but that's our aim. Now, I think obviously one of the things I haven't touched on, and I just want to sort of end on it, not as a negative, but also a really encouraging positive, is obviously one of the overwhelming feedback we get from a lot of our members is about the French resorts and St Anton. And these are resorts we know have a huge amount of British skiers in, and a huge amount of our members skiing in. So we have started conversations with certainly the big resorts in France and certainly St Anton. Now, in terms of this year, our aim is still to have some reps in France, and we are probably at about 95% sure that we will have reps in St Anton, which we're absolutely thrilled about. We'll hopefully confirm it literally in the next sort of 24 to 48 hours. I've been trying to call all day to just get the final go ahead, but it's pretty much all there and good to go. So that'd be really brilliant for us. We haven't been in St Anton for a number of years, and that's always been a challenging resort to get back into. But they're really happy with the new look rep service, with the way we're operating, with what we're asking of our reps, and really delighted to be welcoming our members back into resort. We'll continue those conversations with France. I know James has spoken to a lot of resorts out there. Really encouraging feedback. You know, they really want us to be back there. There's obviously further conversations with some of the other authorities there that we want to have, and make sure that they're equally as happy and supportive of us. It'd be a great place to be. So we will keep you updated. Our aim is to still get there this season. I think we can do it. You know, we're pretty confident, but bear with us a little bit on those particular results. And I guess I'll kind of pause there and sort of gauge everyone's initial feedback, and then maybe I can come back in if there's any questions.
Just while you're all taking that in, can I, on all of your behalf, say thank you to Oren and James and Danny and those of the team who've been having these conversations over the last 2 or 3 months. A huge amount of work has gone in to reactivating sometimes old relationships and also existing relationships, to the point where we now know that after we were down to 16 resorts last season, it looks as though we can get up to something north of 25 in this coming winter. And that's a job, looking at it from council, that's a job really well done by everybody involved. So thank you all very much. And of course, it'll help the holidays program as well, because we have holidays running to many of these resorts as well. So over to you. What do you all think?
Sorry, it's nice to see Sasfay back. I'm being completely selfish. So there's one. And Cormayer, easy for me to get to too. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim. Anybody else want to add anything or make any further suggestions?
Dennis and David, have your hands
Dennis and David, I know you had your hands up for your previous questions. Are you coming back in again, David? You're muted at the moment. Still on mute, David.
My apologies. This is on the subject Owen was just talking about, and I'm delighted to hear that there are resorts coming back to take reps. I'm just curious to understand how much resource drain these are likely to be on the club. As I'm sure many people are aware, in the past, the resorts put up quite a lot to to host the reps, and I'm just wondering what the current position is.
It's a good question. Just before Owen tells you about some of the numbers and the costs, to put it in context, when council was looking at this some months ago, we said we were willing to put up anything up to perhaps 50 or 60,000 to help support getting back into resorts. So in that context, Owen, how's it looking?
Yeah, so, well, and thanks, Dave, it's a good question. First thing, pretty much all of those resorts, bar I think one, which we're still working with, are supporting us in some form. You know, then we're not completely funding or footing the bill for those resorts. And as you know, with a lot of our other resorts, that is to a varying degree. So a lot of the reason for picking those resorts was balancing the feedback from members of where they want to be, the resorts that are willing to work for us, and what the additional costs would be to be able to do that. And as I mentioned earlier, we do see this as a 3-year plan, and with the view that hopefully we get this right and we can prove that we're worth it, we're worth having in resort, so that when we go back to the next year, we can hopefully increase those levels of support. The investment this year will be around an additional 62,000 for those additional 8 resorts. Now, to give you a bit of historical context, that's still a much lower amount than we were spending when we were in 35 resorts. Sorry, not 35, in the 18 resorts immediately after we left France. So a lot of that work's come from kind of working with our current resorts and being able to really explain to them the value of having a rep, so increasing the levels of support there. And that's in large part also, I should say, thank you to our reps who are in the resort, you know, really supporting those relationships. So it's a combination of both, but it's certainly not an unachievable or out of scope project.
Just is it being a hard sell trying to get a contribution in some shape or form from most of the resorts?
I'd actually say not as hard as we perhaps thought it might be for a lot of them. Certainly with some, and a lot of it is about particularly with resorts that just aren't just that familiar with the club. So where we perhaps haven't had a huge Fresh Tracks presence or something like that. It's obviously there's a lot more explaining on what the club is, what we do, who the reps are, why we're valuable to you as well.
Sure. No, I wasn't asking specifics, it was just the generality, because obviously if one's going forward on a 3-year program and it's going to be a really tough sell all the way through, one has to set expectation accordingly. Okay, that's great, thank you.
I mean, James, you might just add something about the reaction you've had from particularly some of the French resorts. I think we've been more enthused than we thought we.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's fair to say we haven't really had a negative response from any resort. They're all open to a conversation, and you know, the tourist offices all understand what we can bring and understand the value of having a rep resort. And as Owen said, I think we've been probably overall pleasantly surprised by the level of support that's been offered initially. I think what's key is that we do have to back that up with results for them. So we do have to, you know, demonstrate to them the value of the rep. And if we can demonstrate the value of the rep to them, then, you know, there is certainly an open conversation with them to gain more support. So it has been really gratifying to see the response from the resorts. I think the changes that we've made to the rep service have been the right changes, and they've been very well received. In a number of cases, there have been changes in personnel, and you know, things change, people change, and I think that's opened up new opportunities for us. So we're very much just, it's about continuing those conversations and proving the value to them of the club and what we do. And then I think we've got every chance of making this a success over the next 3 years.
Good, thank you, David. Now I'm going to come to Bryce. It's nice to see you again, Bryce. And then Simon, I see you with your hand up. I'll come to you after Bryce, if I may. Bryce, you're on, as always, you're on mute. It's very unlike you as well.
Good to see you, thank you. I'm very passionate about the reps resorts, and I feel that the reps get a lot of benefit from having a rep resort. And that's one of the major reasons that I joined, and it's superb. One of the things that I think is missing, because we used to have to send the facts of the snow report to the tourist office, got to know us 2, 3, 4 times a week. So that gave us presence in the tourist office, and that then made it more helpful. Now when we're doing it via the app, we don't have to go in the tourist office anymore. So they don't get to see that the benefit, or do they get to see the benefit that I don't know about?
Well, good question, Bryce, and you're absolutely right. My initial response is you do still have to go in the tourist office. It might not be to send the snow report, but please go. And no, you're absolutely,
in the morning as well as the evening. Bryce.
No, you're absolutely right. And look, you know, we'll talk a little bit more about the detail of this in the reps training days, and I'm sure in general, but for everyone else, the reps relationship and also any members relationship with the tourist officers and the local authorities is critical to us. Continuing our presence there, you know, all of that really helps. So if you are in, you know, whether even if it's hotels or ski schools, and you know, please do talk about the club, explain that that's why you're there, because as a lot of you will know that these aren't massive towns where everybody gets lost. You know, news travels very quickly in ski resorts.
Yes.
So the more we talk about it, and you know, one of the big things we know we've struggled with in the past few years is our visibility, shall we say, in resort. You know, with the jackets and things disappearing a little bit, and we've got a whole heap of ideas about how we can increase that, from sort of ribbons around everybody's arms to, you know, buffs and stickers and all of that sort of stuff. And we'll be getting feedback from the reps and also the members with a view to sort of talk about that in a few weeks' time. So hopefully all of those things will create that. So you're absolutely right. Certainly the snow reports is a great way to introduce yourself, but certainly as a rep, but even as a member, please talk about the club, but please definitely go and visit the tourist office, let them know you're there and how many wonderful people you've met to ski.
Good. We used to also give the lift pass office a bottle of whiskey or some treasure gift to lubricate the wheels of industry. Yeah. I don't know if that's still allowed. Well, I know it's not, but those things help with a great deal of compassion with people. My last comment, if I may, going back to Fresh Tracks, if I may, can we please have flights from other resorts, other places than London?
Short answer. Yes and no. So what we used to have relationships with the likes of Mark Horner and Ski World, where we could offer on those holidays a broader selection of flights because they had chartered airlines and were able to offer them. Now to get round that, we tend to have lots of holidays like all the Flairn and the Chamonix and Dizalp, where we leave everyone able to book their own flights from wherever they want to fly into the airport to allow maximum flexibility. We can't organise 2 lots of group flights because we have to work on minimum numbers. So we have to choose an airport when we look at buying flights. So unfortunately, it goes where we're likely to sell the majority.
Yeah. I understand that. I've been asking the same question for 22 years, so
I know,
I don't expect
and I think since I've been back, this is my third one of these, and it comes up every time. So I'm very aware that there's a demand out there, and from all sorts of different places. But we try and have the flexibility where we can. But you know, if we get to a stage where, you know, Premier Party, for example, we could probably get away with buying in 10 flights from Manchester, but then you can guarantee it would be people wanting them from Edinburgh or Birmingham, or you know, so it's a really tough one. But we are conscious of it.
Okay.
Thank you, Bryce. Not forgotten.
Thank you.
Simon, can I bring you in?
Thanks very much. It's great news on the repping service. Brilliant, particularly that we may be getting back into French resorts. But can I just ask, and forgive me if this is a sort of not an appropriate question, but can you give an undertaking that in negotiating with the French resorts, the ski club will not be placing any business with the ESF at all?
I suppose the short answer is no, not. But James, I mean, you just say a word about the nature of the discussions with the resorts and the distinction between the resorts and the ski schools.
Yeah, so the discussions with the resorts are initially with the tourist offices, but in many cases the tourist offices are working in collaboration with every other stakeholder in resorts. So if we take Three Valleys as an example, we are talking with individual tourist offices in each of the 3 resorts, but at the moment with a particular focus on Maribel as is such a big resort for British visitors, and they seem very keen, but also with the 3 Valleys Association that represent all of the various stakeholders within the 3 Valleys, including the ESF, including all the other ski schools that are in there, including the lift pass companies, because as I'm sure you know, a big ski area has a lot of different moving parts. So our approach is that we go through the tourist office. The tourist office are our key relationship, the tourist office, and to some extent the lift pass company, because often they're offering the support through the lift pass for the rep. But we are saying to the tourist office, we want to know that everybody in the resort is supportive of us coming back into the resort. So we want the tourist office to go there and talk to everyone else that they work with and come back to us and give us that assurance that everybody that is involved in their organisations and the collaborations in the resorts wants us there. So we know when we go back in there, we know we're welcomed by everyone. So that's the approach we're taking. And that's why, as Owen said, it's going to take a little bit longer, but the signs are very positive at the moment.
I understand that approach entirely, but I think it would be very regrettable if the ESF was allowed to get a toe in on instructor-led guiding or something, for example, and to derive any financial benefit, given the history that is not that old of their involvement in what required then major changes by the ski club in the recent past.
I don't think there are any plans that would change that.
No, I mean we're currently very happy with our ILG provider. We're working with them again, with New Generation again this coming season, and we're looking at some different providers in the resorts. They don't currently operate, and none of those providers are ESF. But yeah, I don't see any. As I say, we're pretty invested with New Generation on that, in developing that product with them at the moment. So I don't see why we would suddenly shift that.
No, that's great, and thanks very much for patiently answering the question. Thank you.
No, thank you, Simon. All right, Dennis, is your hand up from before? Have you got another question or comment?
No, I haven't. No, that was before. So, no. Oh,
okay, thank you. Right, now this has been a very gender-specific discussion this evening. I don't think we've got any questions from any of the many women on the call. Would anybody like to contribute or ask anything? Quite a few of you have been contributing in the chat, and I can see. Just while you're thinking, one of the things in the chat I noticed was about making sure that reps' photographs were identifiable, which I know one will take on board.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was Dave. Yes, we're very aware of all of that, and we'll be going through that in a lot more detail on the upcoming rep sessions, sort of behind the scenes with everybody to figure that one out.
Right. Other questions, comments? You're a shy lot this evening. Katie, are there any of the points that come up in the chat?
Paul Herbert has a hand up. Paul Herbert.
Paul Herbert? I think I'm probably looking at the wrong screen. So I can see Dave Davenport smiling at me from a cloudy somewhere.
And then
Mary Gordon has a hand up. Paul has actually got his hand up.
Right, Mary and Paul. Mary first.
Have you changed the training of the reps at all?
How do you change the training of the reps? What a good question.
Have we? Yes, I suppose yes, we have. Obviously, the role is different, so therefore the training is different. It's still, for new reps, it's still an on snow and in resort course. However, all of those things we've talked about kind of previously about facilitating that group management and sharing of that information, and the wider remit outside of the kind of skiing thing, we're putting a lot more focus on that, and we'll be doing that in the upcoming training days here in the UK, as well as the course out in Teen, and then the refresher courses for current reps as well. So the short answer is yes.
Good. Thank you, because over the years I've had good reps and I've had one or two.
We'll make sure the training's really good.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Mary. It's a particularly pertinent question because, as you've
Of
seen
course,
from
right.
Lauren's presentation, we are talking much more about the resort relationship, and the rep in that sense is truly a representative. It's an ambassador into the resort to sustain and develop the relationship with all the different parts of the resort as much as with members. And when James was talking about them seeing the payback, part of that is in ensuring that actually happens. And since we have a lot of reps out there this season, how many do you reckon will be live this season, Owen?
If you combine it across all the fresh tracks, it's probably about 250 to 300.
So 250-ish reps between holidays and in resort this season, making sure that there's a consistent quality of engagement is going to be really, really important. So for those of you on the call who are reps, when you come on the reps training this year, please help Owen to think that through. And please make sure that we don't default back to what sometime in the past being just about going skiing, because it's now needs to be much, much more than that. Yeah. So thank you. Before we bring anybody else in, can I offer my humble apologies to Kimberly? Of course, there was a woman on the call earlier, and I should not have forgotten that. So thank Kimberly and Mary. Right, Susie Fortune, I see has a hand up. Susie. And then Paul Herbert. Susie, you're on mute. Still on mute? No.
Sorry, yes, no, I'm not now. I'm on my phone and I don't know how to do all this on the phone.
Working perfectly now.
Hi, I heard a terrible rumor that the reps might not have to do a first aid course. I hope that's not correct.
You're absolutely right. That is a terrible rumor.
Oh, good. Good, because not long ago, in fact, this year I had an incident with a rep who was absolutely fantastic. I mean, it wasn't me that had the incident, but the reps were absolutely brilliant doing first aid with someone.
No, that's still very much a requirement.
I'm glad that's a rumor. Okay.
Thank you, Susie. Paul Herbert. Paul.
Right, I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, excellent. I was a rep from 1973 till 2004 and active every year. In fact, the 1974, the first year, I was so active in teen that I went to see the tourist director, and I said, look, it takes a while to get over to Val d'Isère. You are big enough and need a representative. And a few years later, of course, a couple of years later, that happened. I don't want to go and dig into sort of how it was, sadly, that we had to leave St. Anton and we had to leave some of the French resorts. But I would say that from my experience, particularly in St. Moritz, where I got around to not only inviting everybody, but even the head man who was collecting all the rubbish. He happened to be married to an English lady, but I thought it was important to be in close contact, even with the lady who organized the Snow and Symphony concerts in St. Moritz. So it is a question of making yourself known to everybody in the resort and being very careful, as I fell into a trap at one point. St. Moritz was well ahead with producing energy from sunlight, and there's a strip of these units all the way up to Corviglia. But you've got to be very careful how you talk politics in a lift, and somebody might hear you. I'm sure there are other areas where, you know, basically we've had a terrible problem straight away. As far as Murren was concerned, which another place, Murren and Grindelwald, that I went to many times in the 70s, I made good friends with somebody who other ski club reps have been in touch with. He was in charge of safety. And basically, I checked with him on a very regular basis what I was doing, what was safe. There's a lot of good off-piste in Murren, but you've got to know what you're doing. Those were the days when reps were able to do a lot of off-piste skiing, which nowadays would have to be done with a qualified guide. So I would suggest that we do need to get our reps to be very close to anybody and everybody who's in an important position in the resort.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Absolutely.
And I know that that message has been heard loud and clear by all of the people who are doing the reps training for this season.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
David Nelson.
I think my question is very simple: is what is the role of a modern rep? So some of us know what it was back in last century, but what is the modern reps and how has that changed? Because to be frankly, I haven't got a clue.
So it's a good question, David. So I mean, I think as I've tried to distill it down into those short paragraphs, the role of the rep, I suppose, is, and we talk about that word facilitate, but to facilitate a great day on snow. And how they do that is obviously by being a focal point for our members to come together, by sharing their information. It's highly likely that in any group of skiers that a rep has put together in resort, that they will be one of, if not the most knowledgeable person of that resort. So sharing that information, you know, suggesting where might be, where should we go this morning, where should we go this afternoon, but encouraging that in a group discussion where, you know, we've seen a lot of the mountain professional industries really shifting towards this idea of group decision making, because you just don't miss as much if it's all on one person. There's a lot of stress, so we're following with that, and this is really about social skiing. The rep is there to ski as a member, but how do they sort of encourage that afterwards? And really it's about everything we've been talking about, their relationships with the resort, so they know what's going on. If somebody has a question, you can go to the rep and ask it, and they'll be able to help you find out the answer. They can point you in the right direction. They can work with our partners in resorts if they're shops and places that are offering discount, or that they know you do really good rental skis, that sort of thing. It's a collection of knowledge, and a lot of the reps on here will be able to talk about, you know, behind the scenes we have lots of information that they share between each other to make sure that then that gets passed on to the members. So to me, that's the role. The role is for there to make sure you have a great day out on snow, starting from the moment you arrive in resort and need to rent equipment, to going out for dinner, to having a ski, to getting home.
So that doesn't sound any different to what it was like in the 1990s. And if you listen to what Paul said, that's already been, so I was trying to understand how it's changed or what's changed, because my experience when I lived in the Alps, that was what the reps did. So was there something that switched or changed? I have to go back to where we were?
Well, I think then probably what happened was that what we were doing when we were previously known as reps changed to leaders, and it was much more of a formal, perhaps on snow role of I'm here to lead you. This is the program for the day, and I'm going to take you here, 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 and here. And what we've done is switch back, revert, I guess, back to that role then, to make it a more encompassing role as a representative, I think is.
But you're right, and Paul Herbert was describing a few minutes ago what it was like repping in Murren and other places in the 70s and 80s, and in many ways it is a return to that much more holistic resort knowledge and resort relationship repping, rather than the type of leading that in some cases got us into difficulties over the last 10 or 15 years. So sometimes things that were in the past aren't always bad in the future, and I hope that the experience that members have skiing with reps this coming season will support that, and I hope it'll work well. But do tell us if you're skiing with reps this season whether we're getting it right or not, and do let Owen and James and others know how well it's working. I know from my own experience talking to reps as I go around resorts, people generally aren't shy in coming forward with telling us how it's working. We won't get everything right, but remember, it's a club. We need you to help us get it right. It's a joint effort, and that applies equally to holidays. You know, reading some of the feedback from members on holiday, I'm pleased to say that by far the vast majority is very positive and supportive. Where things have gone wrong, it's often because we see somebody who's other experience is with commercial holiday companies rather than the club, and they haven't really worked out the difference between them. So do remember, we're a club. We're here to support each other, and if we get things wrong, it's because collectively we're not doing the right stuff. So we look forward to seeing how the new repping program works, new as in old.
Yes, and there was a couple of questions in the chat which I thought now would be a good time to address. So one is, what will the repping service look like in France? So the answer is, it will look exactly the same as everywhere else. So one of the things we want to do is have that consistency of service. Obviously, every resort is different, and there will be some variety, but effectively the repping service is the same in all resorts. And I think it's really important that if we go back to places like St Antoine, we go back to France, it's with, this is the service that we want to provide, and we want the resorts to welcome and be happy with that. So there won't be we won't alter it for France or something like St Antoine. It will be the same service. And then similarly, I think there's also some comments in the chat about working with all stakeholders in resort. And as I say, that's really what we were talking about. We're leading that conversation through the tourist office, but we're asking the tourist office, and the tourist office obviously know this already, that they want to bring everybody on board. And so again, once we go into those resorts, and if you're a rep or if you're in a resort, and you can always tell us if there's anything you notice that you don't think is right. We will go straight to the tourist office as a point of contact from that. And so we're building that consistent experience across different resorts, and we're very much looking to work with everybody. And we'll, I think through then we can make this very successful.
Thank you, James. Katie, was there anything you wanted to pick up in response to any of the questions?
There were a couple of holidays questions that came through. One, from Johnny, and also backed up by Kenny, about telemark holidays. No plans at the moment, but I'm always open to proposals if you've got some ideas. And also telemarketers generally are welcome on, I would say, most of our holidays, and even sometimes when we've got off-piste holidays with mountain guides, they might want to check. We might check that they're comfortable having people on different disciplines, but generally telemarking and skiing would be perfectly suitable together. If it's snowboarding, generally most mountain guides would want to take separate guides or do things differently, but telemarking shouldn't put people off coming on our normal Fresh Tracks holidays. There was a question from Mike about dynamic pricing. No, there are no plans for dynamic pricing at present. And Wendy just mentioned about peak experience, all mountain holidays, to have some without flights. Noted. I think we do have one in Chamonix, but obviously that's a longer course. But yeah, take that on board. Thanks.
Thank you, Katie.
There was one more question about diversity and inclusivity, and my answer is that we are working increasingly closely with lots of the fabulous organisations that already exist. So people like Disabilities Overall UK, people like Snow Camp, organisations like Mount Noir, and many others. And so we meet and talk with them on a regular basis, and we lend our weight, we lend our views, and we offer to help. But where we have a great advantage, I think, as the club is our kind of media profile and presence, which we're also rebuilding. And so in most cases, it's just how we can help those organisations with that. So we're very aware of it. In the same way, there's lots of fantastic work happening in the sustainability space, and we're working with those expert organisations to help them. We're also working in things like inclusivity and diversity, and Social Sports England has a very strong remit on this, on helping people get into skiing. So we think we're best placed to help them, rather than try and do that all ourselves. So that's what we're doing, and we'll do more if we can.
Thank you, James. It's just going up to 6:45, so I think we're coming towards the end of the discussion. But just before we do finish, has anybody got any other questions or comments, or indeed anything to tell us about your plans for this winter? It's only, what, 12 weeks until we have the first rep in resort. Less than that until we have the first holiday going, I guess.
Yeah, only 2 months.
2 months.
29th, 28th of November is our first departure.
Yeah. Any of you made your plans already? Got your bookings in place? Kenny's got his hand up. Kenny?
There we go. Yeah, hi, just a quick one. You've obviously all been extremely busy, so I'm not expecting any sort of epiphany from this question, but has been any further thought given? I asked this question in the last one of these meetings about we always talk about growing the club and younger people and so on, but having a race, a youth race section where we might attract not only, I'm talking about predominantly secondary school children who obviously would bring along their parents. We've come through, skiing from a similar sort of way through a club, and our children raced, and so we all joined the club. It just seems to be something that's lacking, and I know that, but I don't know. I expect there'll be a representation from the ski club at AICC again this year. It seems to be fairly low key. It tends to be I don't see any young racers or potential racers in that. It seems to be maybe people who have raced in the past who go along, which is great, which is fine. But there just seems to be an element that we could probably develop in the club. So I'm not expecting any positive answer, but is it something is it still on the radar at all?
Yeah, James, I can give you an answer, Kenny, of which, yes, we have been very busy, but we are aware of all these other things we want to do. So again, at the moment, really, we are looking to the organisations that we can partner with and help support. So one of those being the National School Snow Sports Association, who have races with up to kind of 350 kids all around the country in snow domes, and also now in Italy and in France and in Switzerland. So we used to have a partnership with them. We're kind of rekindling that, and we're looking to support them and then work with them to reach out to those. And they have things like a squad that they're putting together, which we're talking about how we could get involved in that. So I think, again, it goes back to that, almost right back to the beginning of, we've got limited resources and we've got to focus our efforts in places, but where we see organisations that we know and trust and are doing great work, if we can help them in some way and further the awareness of the club through those, I think that's the way to do it. So yes, we are, and hopefully we can report back on more activity in that area soon.
Yeah, that'd be.
It's probably worth adding also, Kenny, of course, we've got quite a lot of common membership overlap with some of the training clubs, like the DHO, like the Kandahar in Mengen and Murren and so on, and they run youth programs and so on. So our involvement will often be through other clubs where our members are actively involved in some of the youth training programs.
Yeah, and we've also obviously got access. I mean, Amanda Pirrie, who was obviously very active in the club, and we've got Shemi Alcott. We've got some great contacts to maybe get some advice from in terms of how we get youth into the club, and maybe racing is one way to do that. And Malcolm Erskine at British Ski Academy, he's produced some great racers. Not that we're all want to be racers, but many children start off racing and then keep skiing, but as recreational skiers. So it might be a way to get a sort of a grassroots sort of growth back into the club, get sort of young skiers involved and joining the club. That's where I'm coming from.
Yep, agree completely.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Nick. Robert Loads, you've got your hand up.
Hello. With this about racing, there's already a lot of racing going on the dry slopes we know about, and that. So following on from Jim's point, I thought it would be more helpful if, instead of looking to copy what's already happening, if you organised freestyle events for youngsters at the snow domes throughout the country. So you could tell them that come along and we will teach you how, to skid a rail and all the things that youngsters enjoy doing, which put the wind up me if I tried it. But I think that would be a better way to go than copying what's already happening on a big scale at the throughout the country with the racing. That's my point.
I think it's a similar answer again, Robert. There's a lot of freestyle organised by various associations and by the slopes themselves and by the snow domes particularly. We know about the Fridge Kids and the amazing training ground that's been for British skiers going through to Olympic success. So again, we are stepping up our conversations and our relationships with the domes, and my ambition would be to work more closely with those for things like the sessions that they organise, because again, they do it and they're the experts in it. We can certainly go in and get involved with those, and absolutely, we'd like to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Jim, I see your hand up again.
Yeah, just in response to the last two speakers in what they were saying, I have a magic pass here in Valais and Vaud, and they are always sending me stuff. They got me to join Swiss Ski. I pay €50 a year. I'm now a supporter of the Swiss youth ski team. I get and 3 messages a year saying thank you. I get an update by email every 2 weeks with all of what's going on in the events. It makes you feel like you're supporting them. If we could do something, I'd love to do something similar to support the British ski team, but I don't know what it is or where it is. And it was very easy for me to do that. I'd quite happily pay another 50 quid to support the British one, but maybe the ski club could facilitate that.
So we're speaking to, so there's an organisation called the British Ski and Snowsports Foundation, which is connected to GB Snowsports, and so we are talking to them about the best way that we and members can support them. We're in contact directly with Dave Riding and the rest of the Alpine team. So obviously, we're talking to them. We've offered our help. We've helped share their campaign, and we've said directly to Dave and the others that anything we can do to help, we will, and obviously through Shelley as well. So look, we can always do more. I won't pretend that we can't, but that is happening, and obviously we need to talk about it a little bit more. But yeah, I completely agree.
Thank you. Now, somebody had asked whether they'll be able to watch this on record if they missed much of the session this evening. And as before, I think we'll make it available through the website. Yeah. So if you came in late and you want to hear what was said earlier, there'll be a link for that. We'll also go through the chat afterwards and pick up the many good points in there. But is there anybody who's put something in the chat that they'd like an answer to or discussion about now that we haven't already responded to? Right, I think in that case we've probably covered all the burning issues that you've got. The snow show comes up in 10 days?
Just over 2 weeks.
Just over 2 weeks, and we'll be there as well. What sort of presents have we got this year, James?
So we have a stand at the snow show, same stand as last year, although it's in a different hall, so don't expect to find us in the same position because we will have moved. But we're also working very closely in partnership with about 10 organisations around the show. We're the insurance partner of the show. But what we've done is partner with everyone at the show that offers some kind of benefit. So when you come to the show, you will be able to go around the show and look at all the other organisations and other sort of retailers and companies there that offer some kind of member benefit. They will have a big sign on their stand saying Ski Club members, so you can go around and see all of the benefits. I think we do still have some tickets available as well. So there was an email that went out recently, so I think we do still have some. So it'd be great to see some of you there. Quite a few of the team will be there at some point, and it's shaping up to be a good show. So we look forward.
And we'll be continuing with the resorts that are present at the show, some of the dialogue that we've been having about expanding resorts. So if any of you are able to be there, you'd be very welcome to join in that as well, and let the resorts know that we're Ski Club members and we're looking forward to seeing them on the mountain. Right, unless anyone's got anything else they'd like to raise, I think we're just about done. So thank you all very much for your attendance this evening. Very good turnout. At its peak, I think we had about 160 people on the call. Many of you are still with us. So thank you for your time this evening. I hope we've given you some good news, and we look forward to seeing you on the mountain this winter. All the very best.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Good night all.
Bye.